Welcome to Energetics with Kim and Veronica, where we invite you to nourish the energy of your inner why, your inner healing, magic, prosperity, your curiosity, clarity, playfulness. Welcome home. Hello. Hi, Kim.
Hello, Miss Veronica, and all of our listeners and watchers and people.
Beings, lovely ears listening and eyes watching, hoping that you're really feeling this as a conversation between friends, between family. This is, pulling up a seat around the campfire and having a conversation. And so really appreciating your contribution to whatever comes forth here, because just participating through listening or watching is contributing to the energy, the information, the wisdom that's coming through. And we are energetics and loving to have this conversation about energetics as we see it and as we experience and embody it and as we see it through our clients and any programs that we facilitate. And so, Kim, where can folks find you?
You can find me on Facebook, Kim Coleman. You can also find me on Facebook, kimcoleman.growingbeyond, and on Instagram, kimcoleman.growingbeyond,
Amazing.
and growingbeyond.com.
There's lots of growing beyond. and I can be found on Instagram at the Veronica Rose. That's Roze. Kim and I have been having conversations like this for almost 2 decades, probably on and off, and have
Well,
been.
actually, remember when we first started this, we counted it up and we have 55 years experience between the two of us. That was in 2024, which we're still in. We started doing stuff with Urban Mystics Healing. How long ago would have that been? I don't know, but you're right. Yeah, conversations. 2 decades? Or a decade?
2 decades, sure. On and off. And we love it. We love to just really look at how we take the wisdom of the ages and the new awarenesses through consciousness that are emerging, and how do we blend them into our daily lives and allow that information, the wisdom, the tools, the practices, the techniques to really empower us to create a mastery out of our life, navigating the tough times and really creating the beautiful things that we want to experience in life.
Right, because tools are great and wisdom is great. But if you can't and don't apply it in your life, then it's just, I don't know, verbal diarrhea. It's just like blah, 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 right? And so for me, that's what I like to share is like, yeah, this is what's going on in my life right now. And this is, how I'm being with it, and sharing that wisdom and that knowledge. And yeah, do I cry? Of course I cry. Do I scream? Right. And all the human things. And it's about being human as well as being all of who we be. There's so many different multiple parts of who we be. Being human, being divine, being in all of it. And so it's about, like you said, navigating that and the now what, right? It's yeah, do I go down the rabbit hole? Yeah, but I don't stay there. Oh man. Years ago, did I stay there? Oh yeah, and I'd pull you in there with me. Right.
Doing this together.
Yeah. It's that misery loves company thing, right? And and so now it's not like that for me anymore. Thank goodness. Does it mean I don't go down the rabbit hole? No, of course. Like I said, yeah, of course I go down the rabbit hole. I just don't stay there.
Yeah, exactly. And we've been having conversations lately about compounding, right? And so the concept of the little things over time compound, and that can be either in directions we don't want to go, or it could be in directions we want to go. And so I think that's been a really important concept as we've looked at how we've taken on tools or practices or nuggets of wisdom, embodied them in little bits through our days and through our lives. And that's created, small, medium, big changes as it relates to relationships or our own self-empowerment or career or money or work or whatnot. And so as we've seen some really beautiful and magical things come into our lives, you can kind of reverse back and look at, okay, that compounding really made an effect. And so, yeah.
Yeah, that compounding thing, it is, often look for other words. What does that even mean, right? And I would love to know what it means for you, Veronica. And for me, when I'm looking and I'm going, okay, so compounding to me means adding to it, building on it. It's a platform. It's a, what is my cup full of, right? And so yeah, that's the compounding effect for me. It's building upon it. What is it that I'm choosing to make larger than life without ignoring everything else, right? So what is my, when I have a really strong platform, foundation, whatever you want to call it, then I always have something to come back to, me. So that the poop can be hitting the fan out there. And if I haven't created or built or compounded, some strength, some truth, whatever you want to call all that, some confidence, some trust. If I haven't built that and I didn't get it from growing up or my family or my environment, if I haven't personally taken on the choice to create that for myself and make that the compounding effect, then what do I have to come back to? What about you?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's the foundation. Yeah, it's about the multiplying, the growing, the expanding, right? So if we've been talking a lot about gratitude lately, and so when we look at the alchemical effect of gratitude and how it's a nice thing to do in the beginning, it starts to feel good. You start to feel a little bit better. This has been my experience of it. And you start to overall feel better, and then really great things start to happen in your life, and surprises and miracles, and magic starts to show up. So it starts as a really small thing, like maybe I just start to feel a little bit better, but the more that I continue to do it consistently over and over time, it gets bigger and bigger, it gets louder and louder, it shows up in my so-called, knock on wood life. It's just it grows and expands and grows and expands, and so that's the compounding for me.
I love that. Yeah. And again, short snippet on the gratitude thing. Gratitude, as you and I have both shared in, I think, a couple episodes, but hey, it can always be shared again. That gratitude thing being something that as simple as, oh my God, the sun feels so good on my face. Oh my God. And just pausing for that moment, even if it's 10 seconds, just pausing for that moment to have the feels of the gratitude of the, oh my God, it just feels so good. And that's what creates that inner jetics, that inner environment of gratitude. So it's not just, yeah, I'm happy I got a roof over my head. It's not that. It's that too. And yet at the same time, it's in the daily, right? It's in the daily acknowledgement of, oh my God, I'm having a pretty good hair day today. I love that, right? And it can be those types of things. And it is those types of things that will create that inner environment and create and create and create, where then as we become more aware of the sun on our face and take those little moments to really acknowledge it and be grateful for the sun on my face, my feet on the earth, or whatever it is, that pretty rock or my favorite mug, whatever it is, take that moment and that starts to fill that cup full of gratitude. And then we become that energetic match for more to be grateful for. Otherwise, it's really easy to look around and do the life sucks, right? And then that can become a compound.
Yeah,
But yeah. Okay.
absolutely. Okay. Okay. Okay, bye. I love it.
Okay, so let's share. So on the last call or on our last chat, we did speak about the compound effect and starting to look at and notice things that we called it superpowers. Also, so things that you are simply really good at that you might take for granted. Because as we can start to really look at the things that we're really good at and acknowledge it instead of taking it for granted, but actually acknowledge it. It creates another compound effect of what? Confidence, right? And so we talked about, what were some of the examples we gave last time, just quickly?
I talked about how I, used to really judge myself for not being talkative enough in bigger
Right.
conversations, and then I really challenged myself to self-reflect and saw, I'm often commented about on how I'm such a good listener, and so instead of judging myself about not being as engaged in conversation, I, really turn that to appreciation of the fact that I can listen and I love listening. Not only can I, but I love it. And a lot of people want to be listened to. So where are you judging something where there's actually a hidden superpower under there, and you could just change the perspective and really recognize and celebrate the gift or that you're bringing, the superpower that you have.
Right. Yeah. So like when I was a kid, I didn't jump into a lot of things. I would witness a lot. So there was a lot of things I jumped into, but I also learned to stand on the sidelines and witness and observe. And there's a part of my brain that kind of goes and so I have this gift that I tend to see things and notice things that a lot of people don't. However, in the moment, I would have just thought, oh, I don't have the confidence to go and do that. Oh, I'm too shy to do that. And as an adult, I can look back and go, oh my God, I would be observing my world and all the things in it. And I have this uncanny ability, capacity, gift, superpower now where I can connect dots that are bizarre, like whether it's with my client or in a class, it can be something that all of a sudden I heard from whenever, and all of a sudden it goes, and it's just bizarre how that happens. And so, for sure, that is one of my superpowers. That's one of my gifts. It's one of my capacities to be able to take some really interesting consciousness concepts, spiritual concepts, whatever you want to call that, and just bring it in and not simplify it as much as deliver it in a way that people can receive it and hear it. So that is definitely one of my gifts. I would have never thought it was. It was just like, so we all have some things, well, many things, let's say many things that are so easy for us that we don't even acknowledge it as a strength because it's just so easy that we just don't acknowledge it as a strength. So there would be one for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
This capacity to put things together. And I don't try to do it. I'm not trying to figure things out. Good God. Right? I get in my way when I'm trying to figure things out for sure. But just allowing and those connections just show up, like whether it's body, mind, and being connections just goes and quickly. And so for our audience, what are some of the things that are so easy for you that are so easy for you, but maybe not so much for others, that you don't even acknowledge it as one of your gifts? And would you be willing to go, oh, wow, that's actually really easy for me? That's really easy for me. Wow, that's one of my gifts. Wow, I'm really gifted in that area. However, in this reality, we've been taught, don't, that would be vain. That would be egotistical. No, 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 no. That's BS. When you can acknowledge your gifts, you're being in your magnificence. And guess what? You're compounding. You're compounding. Yes, I matter. Yes, I matter. Wow. And then you'll start to notice some of the other things that are superpowers for you, or gifts, or things that, maybe somebody says to you, oh my God, you're so good at crafts. And you're like, oh no, blah, blah, blah. Well, what if that's oh, thank you. Thank you. And you start to acknowledge, yeah, I am really good at crafts, right? The girls in my family, they can go to a market and see stuff and go home and make it. That's not one of my superpowers. It's not. When I sit in craft circles, it's hilarious, Veronica. You'd almost have to be there. It's hilarious. So I'll sit there and it'll be like, yeah, put the dots on the rock, when you're painting a rock. And I'm like, where? Where am I supposed to put it? It's, it's not what I want to learn how to do it. However, and I love to be in those groups, but it's not one of my gifts. It's not one of my superpowers, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't mean I'm not going to do it. Doesn't mean I can't still have fun playing, right?
But you'll
And
be the
so,
one that gets the message from the rock and has a conversation with the rock that no one else can.
and maybe the rock saying, I don't want to die. So for example, so let's give some, So for example, when you start to look at your daily living and notice the things that you are good at and really acknowledge that and allow yourself to receive, wow, I'm actually really good at that, right? When we start to do that, then we're actually also so we're also creating confidence for ourselves. And when we have that confidence that, yeah, I can do things, I matter, I can do things, I'm awesome at things, right? And then
Yeah.
we no longer need it as much from the outside world. Is it still fun to get that from the outside world? Oh my God, yes. Do I love it when somebody says to me, blah, blah, blah? Of course I do. Sorry, I cut you off. What were you
Yeah,
going to
yeah, no,
say?
no, absolutely. Yeah, no. And it's, this concept of, radical responsibility for creating the fulfillment in our lives, right? So we, a lot of us have been wired to look for life to bring us either the solutions to our problems or the roll out the red carpet for things to be easier for us because we think that that's what's happening for other people. But really, the truly happy, fulfilled, empowered, successful people that are sincerely, truly, experiencing all of that are generating it from within. They're generating, it's like that whole concept of, circumstantial power versus personal power that you can hear others talk about. It's like the personal power you generate your own personal power. And that really starts with
Right.
recognizing your own superpowers. You're recognizing your own gifts. That's, like, to your point, it's the concrete, it's the foundation, it's the blueprint of everything else. And so if we can start with that, then life starts to change as we begin to create this very strong generation of power, this strong blueprint or foundation. Life responds to us differently. And so all of us have these superpowers, but either we don't see them because we feel like they're so easy and simple. Everyone must be able to have it. Like in an example that you shared, I think on the last session is or the last conversation we had about, somebody at the office keeps their pens really organized, or I don't know, their file folder really organized, but someone else's is a mess. And now we're judging the mess instead of recognizing, well, actually that organization is a superpower. My husband, my husband is really, really naturally can forgive people. It's just natural. He doesn't think about it. Like, people have done atrocious things to him, and he's just like, he just gets over it. And it's not, he doesn't have to try. I have to try. I have to work at it. I have to, it's not easy for me to forgive really big bad things. But he can just move on. But he was recognized for it by a friend, a couple of years ago. He's like, I don't know, what are you talking about? Like, everyone does that, right? So it's usually those things where we either find it so simple that we undermine how big and important it is, or the other key ways to find it is by looking at the judgments, right? Where am I judging someone else for not doing or having this with ease? And where am I judging myself, where there could be on the flip side a superpower, like I shared with the listening example.
I love that. I love this conversation. This is such an empowering conversation. It really, really is. Because again, when you start to acknowledge what are your gifts, I love that your husband has that gift to forgive. Like, wow, right? That's amazing. And so what's really interesting is we tend to often look at the things that we're not good at, right? But what if we did a little switcheroony there and started to look at the things we are good at. So we got really good at the wrongness of self and others. What if we started to look at for the strongness of self and others? And so, for example, some people are really good at whatever. Well, if I'm not, then I can reach out to them for this, that, and the other. And that's where we get to have a team. Okay, this isn't one of my strengths, but I know it's hers. I'm going to call her and see if whatever, if she's willing to come and do this for me or do a trade or whatever. And so that's what makes us all so unique. But so yeah, that's the challenge. I challenge everybody to start looking at what are the things that are so easy for you that you don't even acknowledge it as a gift or a superpower. And as we start to own that and really go, wow, I'm actually really good at that, what happens again is we're compounding that. We start to create confidence. When you show up in the room, in any room, whether it's whatever room, when you show up in life as a confident person, a person of confidence, that's a whole different playground. It's a whole different playground. And the more we show up like that, the more we'll create differently, the more things to be proud of, right? And we stop looking for it so much from the external world, right? And yeah, it's still fun to get it from the external world for sure. And so it's about finding out what you're made of, right? And elaborating on that and what else and what else and what else and get curious on the what else. And so, like for example, Ken, my partner, he can open up a fridge and look at what's in there and create an amazing meal. That's not one of my gifts. I'm really good at eating the amazing meal, right? He can open the fridge and see stuff and go boom, 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 and boom, we're having a great meal. I open the fridge and I'm like, oh, there's nothing there. I guess I'll scramble some eggs. Right? It's not one of my superpowers, right? So he's the guy that does that. He's the guy for that job, not me. I'm really good at doing the dishes, as we spoke in the last chat. One of my nieces, she's amazing at getting stains out of anything. Like that's one of her superpowers. It's one of her gifts. So I'm looking at what are some of the daily things that we just overlook. And so if I've got a stain, guess who I'm going to call? I'm going to call her. What do you think? How do I get this stain out? Right? It's not one of my natural capacities. What else? Okay. So, all right, here we go. Here we go. So, Veronica, you and I'm just going to say it. We are hilarious when it comes to naming a program,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now, the word energetics, this program just showed up. However, when it comes to you and I looking to name, give it like, let's create a program. So we're looking at creating a program coming up. And we're like, what do you want to name it? And when we used to create years ago, it was the same thing. Oh my God. And then one of our mentors, my God, the names that she comes up with are jaw dropping.
We're like, and
Right?
they're so simple. We're like, why can't we think of that? I don't
I
know.
know, it's hilarious, right? And so yeah, so that just doesn't seem, and so and so we'll keep getting curious, and it's not that we give up, right? We're not the ones that are going, yeah, well, no. However, we'll get curious, and if something shows up, that's great. However, who is really good in our circle at coming up with naming things, right? Um, and so yeah, it's about including our community and not giving up. Doesn't mean we give up. Like I said, I'll still go to the craft circles and put the dots wherever they end up on that rock. So it's not about giving up, but I'm not going to beat myself up. It's not one of my superpowers, right? And so yeah, so again, naming circles, or sorry, naming programs. You and I, if anyone out there is good at that, let us know.
We will leverage your superpower.
My God,
Happily.
right? Yeah, and it's so funny because we tend to think our superpowers have to be big and complicated. Yeah, that's hilarious. Right. So, for example, years ago, I used to do in person soul retrievals. I was trained by a medicine and shaman woman way back in the 90s to lay down to next someone and do soul retrievals. It was so easy for me and so quick, snap of the fingers quick, that I can remember walking away after I did a soul retrieval for someone, and it all happened in about 5 minutes, right? It happens, and it was always like that for me in doing soul retrievals. And so I can remember walking back to my car with my drum and thinking to myself, I gotta be making this up,
Yeah.
right? This is
Yeah.
just so easy for me. I gotta be making this up. And then it was if the council of the grandmothers kind of swarmed in, and it was as if they were saying, oh, you need it to be hard? If it's really hard for you, will you believe it? Will you know how worthy it is? Will you think that you're doing something if it's really hard to do? Because we can make it hard for you. And I went, okay, got it, got it. Right. And it's so funny. Like, it was so easy for me. I didn't acknowledge it as a gift. Now I don't even have to be laying next to somebody. I can be doing what we're doing. But if
Yeah.
I hadn't of received how easy it was for me and then get that that was a gift, the ease of that was a gift, I probably would have stopped. Instead of now, I don't even need to lay next to someone to do it. So I acknowledged it as one of my gifts, right? That's all I did. I acknowledged it as, wow, it's one of my gifts. Okay. And it doesn't have to be hard and difficult and take forever. And so it's the more that, so what's my point on that? The more that we can acknowledge our gifts, right? That's not egotistical, vain, or conceited. Egotistical, vain, and conceited to me is if I think I'm better than everyone else. There's a difference in me acknowledging that I'm awesome at this and that, as opposed to thinking I'm better than everyone else. So as I acknowledged, oh my God, these soul retrieval things, I'm really good at it, and they happen like that for me, then it got to go to the next level and the next level. It took on a life of its own. Otherwise, I was like, I got to be making this up. I really was walking back to my car thinking this is just too easy. I got to be making this up. And so I was like, I'm not going to do this anymore because I'm not sure if I'm making it up or not. Boom, grandmothers came in. Got council of grandmothers. Boom. Okay, got it.
I love that.
Oh my
I
God.
remember us having this conversation. This is a decade ago too, where we were, we were both in the practice of doing like hour-long sessions with clients, and we were both noticing around the same time that, 10 minutes, 15 minutes in, we'd be done, and it's like, and then you kind of make yourself wrong about it, like, oh, if I can't handle the full hour, what's the problem, right? But clients were getting the transformation so quickly because of the way, things were speeding up at the time or whatnot. And so it's interesting how quickly we go into judgment and wrongness instead of just accepting that there's some brilliance in there, there's some superpower, or there's other factors at play.
I love that. That is such a good point. Yes, I do remember that. I totally remember that.
It's
Yeah, so
like,
things
okay,
that
we're
are
done.
so easy for us, right? Things that are so easy for us, we just take it for granted, right? Some people, I mean, all of us have things about ourselves that are brilliant and magnificent that we take for granted. So, but boy, oh boy, those things that we don't like about ourselves, those get our attention, right? Those compound, right? So what if we started to really notice and stop and smell the roses and pause for that moment and go, wow, that is so easy for me. Like if you saw how I wrap a present, you'd laugh. You'd laugh, right? And it's just how I do it. It's My mom, she used to treat it like wallpaper. So the edges had to line up with the image, all the things. All the things. Anyway, love, my doorbell's ringing. I got a client at my
Yes, thank you
door.
so much, everyone. Appreciate it. Thanks for listening. If you have anybody who you think needs to hear or would benefit from hearing this conversation, please share. We would really appreciate it. And until next time, so much love.
Ta ta for now.